Rice growers in Nigeria's rural Kwakuti community seek to boost production and raise productivity in Niger State.
Fear in Malawi after a priest and the police officer are arrested in connection with the killing of a young albino man.
A radio program for African people living in New York, Radio Mali USA, delivers news from home in a familiar language. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Africa 54. I'm Chamberlain Uso at Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by my colleague at Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Esther Gidu. You are at our global headquarters here in Washington, D.C. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with a look at the quest of rural rice farmers in Nigeria's Kwakuti community to increase production in Niger State. Chamberlain Uso in Lagos brings you that story.
Rice growers and processors in rural communities across Nigeria are keen to increase their production capacity. In Kwakuti community in Niger State, rice farmers are sure they can play a big role in the success of a national target of self-sufficiency by the year 2020, given enough support. Channels Television's correspondent, Emperor Simon, who visited the community, compiled this report.
As of 2017, demand for rice in Nigeria was put at 7.9 million tons. When compared to 5.8 million tons presently being produced across over 20 states, there is still a gap. And in line with an ongoing rice revolution at the national level to meet demand and ultimately put a stop to capital flight from rice import, states are ramping up production. But some communities are still operating below capacity. Kwakuti in Niger State is one of such places. But owing to the abundance of arable land, the indigents have been cultivating rice for many years. They also boast of one of the best qualities around. Rice processing is pretty much manual. The men plow the land. After harvesting, the women handle all other stages of production. These painstaking processes, though time-consuming, are said to contribute to the uniqueness of the rice.
We believe we can be able to have a healthy rice whereby there's no chemical in it. And I have been using it for the past 20 years because I believe when I eat it, it's even sweeter and even better than that of the foreign rice.
This is little consolation for those who know firsthand the challenges associated with producing rice this way. What's working for them is their desire to become one of the largest rice producers in the country.
We attract buyers from various states, including Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt and even Enugu, but we need modern machines and capital to do more. There is also no water. Most times we buy water to use in washing the rice. We need government support to assist us.
In the past, a project by United Nations Development Program served as a milling center with modern facilities. But that was only for a while, as it is now out of use.
The engine that they brought for us is even more worse than the local one that we are using. Because the local one we are using here, it can process up to maybe 10 bags in 2 hours. But that one can only process 1 bag in 2 hours.
The need for retention is apparent in order to harness the potential here. And the state government says it is already in talks with development partners to tackle the challenges with the aim of boosting rice production in Kwakuti community.
We are about to sign an MOU with one of the rice producing company in Nigeria. They have gone around, they have seen the fields, they have talked to the farmers. We are now putting finishing touches to what they will bring. First of all, they have agreed.
With the plan to attain self-sufficiency in rice production in Nigeria by 2020, supporting small-scale rice growers across the country such as Kwakuti community may help close the deficit in the domestic demand faster. And maybe the country could begin exporting the crop sometime in the future.
For more on how best to help small-scale producers across the country produce more, we're joined by agricultural consultant Zainal Hassan. Welcome to Africa 54. And let's start by asking you, how feasible do you think the target is of producing enough rice for the country's local demand by 2020, especially when you consider the rapidly growing population?
Okay, thank you for having me. I think it is very feasible considering the inputs that has been put in place or the impact that we've had in the last couple of years regarding rice production. There's a lot of attention going in terms of government policies, there's support from the private sector, there's funding also from the central bank and other development banks. This has actually supported rice-growing communities, which has, in one way or the other, re-intensified production across the nation.
What key areas would you recommend we focus on so as to fast-track meeting this target, especially helping small-scale farmers?
Yes, three things. One is agricultural extension. Agricultural extension has a capacity of helping communities to increase production, one, by transferring improved technologies or that will enable them to increase their yield. Secondly, agricultural extension also has a capacity to help rural communities improve on their livelihood. We need to retool. The tools we use today are tools that will not be able to help us increase production. Using hoes to cultivate rice in this age and time will not help our farmers to be able to increase production. So we need to change, bring in improved tools. There are smaller tools or machines, smaller machines that are being used for smallholder farmers. Farmers in rural communities need to have access to this. And thirdly, has to do with input financing. Financing either for high quality seed, for crop protection products, that's the pesticides, and also for fertilizers. Farmers in rural communities oftentimes do not have access to some of these inputs, and it has become a very big challenge. If there are ways to be able to enhance this, certainly production will increase.
Well, we've heard governments speak about doing something to ensure farmers get access to fertilizer and agri-extension agents, as you also highlighted. But the private sector are also in this one. What kind of role do you see them playing?
Yes, the private sector has a very key role because they are the drivers of the industry. They are the processors. If we have a very vibrant processing chain across the country, that's going to move production higher, which means that farmers, when they grow their rice, they'll be able to have buyers of paddy, which will also enable them to go back to their farms to be able to buy more inputs and then continue. Now, also, there are other form of private sectors that are emerging or new initiatives in agriculture, which is some crowdfunding initiatives. What they do is that they reach out to middle-class people who have interest in farming, and then they have a specific amount for a plot or a hectare, and then they pay. And then these small companies reach out to these farmers, ensure that they have access to the right inputs, they have access to quality extension so that they will be able to produce. And this has been helping a great deal. We need to see more of that happening across different parts of the country to be able to boost rice production.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Zainal Hassan, agricultural consultant, thank you for talking to us today on Africa 54.